Hey folks, happy Friday. My name is Greg McLawsen. I am an immigrant rights lawyer here in beautiful Seattle, Washington. And the focus of my practice is litigation around something called the Form I-864 Affidavit of Support. Basically, this revolves around issues of financial sponsorship in the immigration context. And I was listening yesterday to news about the new and very interesting Welcome Corps program and realized that this is probably going to raise some issues about the liability of individuals and organizations who sponsor refugees under this program. And I thought I could probably allay some concerns that might be forming around that issue. So let me explain about kind of the serious financial sponsorship that happens in some contexts of US immigration law and why those don't apply to the Welcome Corps program. So going back to 1996, Congress created what is now called the Form I-864 Affidavit of Support. And in certain contexts of US immigration law, visa sponsors are required to execute this binding financial contract. And by doing that, the sponsor incurs an individual and enforceable legal responsibility to provide direct financial support to the immigrant. Specifically, they are required to promise to provide support at 125% of the poverty guideline. That's roughly $17,000 per year, which is a significant amount of money for somebody to commit to supplying. However, this binding affidavit of support applies only in the family-based immigration context. There's also a very limited context where it applies in employment-sponsored immigration, but really the core application of these binding affidavits of support are in family-sponsored immigration. They do not apply, and they are not required in refugee-based immigration processes. So entities that are going to be sponsoring refugees through the Welcome Corps program are no doubt going to have a significant amount of paperwork to demonstrate that they meet the requirements to provide the resources that are committed to that program. But what they will not be required to sign is this binding, legally enforceable affidavit of support that provides that $17,000 per year in promised financial support to the recent immigrant. The statute around that is just very clear that it is limited in scope, again, primarily to family-based immigration contexts with limited application in employment-sponsored immigration, but just does not apply in the refugee context. The statute for your reference is 8 USC 1183A, that is section 213A of the Immigration and Nationality Act. Those are the two same statutory provisions, just different ways of referencing them. Now, organizations or individuals who are participating in the Welcome Corps program are going to need to be able to show that they have the ability to provide $2,275, that's in 2022 dollars, in resources to the arriving refugee. And they are also going to need to demonstrate that they can provide resettlement resources in the form of job training and other in-kind benefits. These are similar to what are already in place for formal refugee resettlement programs. But this more cut and dried financial liability that exists under the affidavit of support, the idea that the sponsor would have to provide direct financial compensation to the tune of $17,000 per year, that just does not apply to the Welcome Corps program because of how the immigration statute is written. A very similar set of concerns came up when the Biden administration's United for Ukraine, UFU program came up, because that program, which does not technically involve refugees, they're technically called parolees, but this idea that private sponsors could bring over needy individuals from the Ukraine to resettle in the United States. That also involved a document called the Affidavit of Support, but it was called the Form I-134 Affidavit of Support. And again, because that Uniting for Ukraine program did not fall under the auspices of family-sponsored immigration, the binding affidavit of support wasn't required, and UFU sponsors were not incurring that substantial individual financial liability that's required under the I-864. So all of this is to say that the big, scary specter of enforceable and significantly financially onerous affidavits of support, the Form I-864, are not required in the Welcome Corps program, and folks and churches and other entities should not be scared out of participating in that program over the misguided concern that there is a big, scary affidavit of support involved that might be financially ruinous to them. So if you think you might be a good fit for the program, definitely look into it and don't let this concern assuage you from from not participating. Hope that's helpful. Have a great Friday, everybody, and stay well. Take care of each other.